And Jing, you did mention the client-side rendering versus server-side rendering. And the next question is actually for myself, because I build single-page app most of the time. And can I ask you to elaborate more how, for client-side rendered content, how Google can index them?
Yeah, so for client-side, as I mentioned previously, Google doesn't really like client-side render website. So Google always saying that maybe you do like some of the front-end developers sometimes will be just get like, oh, John Mullen from Google just saying that like a few months ago, Google now is a lot better to index client-side. So why we still need to do server-side? I got this question a lot. And then one of our website previously was built in client side, and then I strongly recommend that to building in server side, but they didn't listen to us, and then it become a best case study across the whole business, just saying that like because they listen to Jine, and that's why this is going wrong, and then you can't get the organic traffic. But why this is it? And it's just because for client side render, Google will have like two waves of index. So the first way would be what you actually generated in your client side, which is a lot easy. Googlebot just come in and have locate. It's like more your when you do view source on your page source, and then this the first time display in the view source code, which is the client side render, and which is Google easily can get it from the first way index, and then it's come into the concept as second way index, which means the first way index, the Googlebot cannot detect any content or cannot detect the most content. Then it would go into your JavaScript to have a look at to get the second way index. And the deeper you have in the JavaScript, the harder Google can get the content. So which means like, because all the Googlebot have the crawl budget, and everything do extra, it will be cost more budget, which is costly. So and also will be blocking Google to be read the whole content. Like for example, you have the JavaScript file one and then generated this, but at the end like, oh, because you need to call another JavaScript to actually generate the other, and then the bot need to follow all those, and then finally it might be get lost. And that's why it will be causing the indexing problem. If you are the bot and then you get into all those waves, and now I still finally cannot get all those, and then you will feel dizzy, right? That's why I use this way. And then they will be like, oh, maybe I just drop off. I just give up because it's too hard to curl, and then I just give up, and then I just do not curl. And whatever is in my mind or whatever I can curl, I just display that. That will be causing the bot do not want to curl, and that part will be losing. And all the content will be lost. So that's why for SEO work, like at least at this stage, I can't say like after 1 year or 10 years that can be different, because you know Google always increase their algorithm and always have update their algorithm. So maybe at one day they are perfectly fine for this client side, but as 2021 now, I don't think this is the case yet. So that's why I still strongly recommend you need to avoid client-side render, and then you need to do server-side render. And at least if you, like for example, if you have calculator pages, it's really hard to get the calculator to be server-side because there's a lot of things like calculation behind it. But at least your majority of your content is server-side. Like for example, you have the calculator page, and then you have the description of your calculator, and that all those kind would be server side, but just the calculation part, like when people put into, like for example, home loan calculator, when people put into your salary and your interest rate and your repayment process, a period, and then you click the button and then display that. So maybe this major part of calculation you can do client side, because that will be a lot easier for you to do client side rather than server side. That's server side just too hard for that. But the description, the heading and the navigation or the footer or any other information which is do not need this dynamic process, then you should do it as server side. So the rule would be your majority of your content need to be server side. Preferable to be all, but if you can't, then your majority of your content need to be server side.
Sounds like it can be a good practice to have your page initialized via server-side rendering with the JavaScript framework or without. But for user interaction part, probably you can keep it on the client side. Is that what you are talking about?
Yeah. But like some of the user interaction, you still should be put it into server side. Like for example, if you want to show the nearby places, like maybe nearby train station within your house or within this address, then for that, like at least you need to put like maybe your map can be client side, right? But but the information you're actually listing, like if I click 5K, then it will be have 5K as the list. Like the train station distance from you is 5K. Then that list need to be server side.
Okay.
So like and you click the second tab, maybe 10 km, then that need to be server side. So your content, like your majority of your content have the text content, I would preferable to be server side.
Okay, good to know.
Otherwise, it just Google might not be able to read it. So any content you don't care Google to read, you can do it as client side.
Right, good to know. Yeah, I think that answered the question. Question number 4. So, what kind of tools you are using on a daily basis, and why do you use that?
That's a good question. So I obviously the first one I need to use would be Google Search Console, which is the Google tool provided to all the webmaster to be used to see how's your SEO clicks between the period, like since it's tracking, and what's the major keywords and the page actually give you organic traffic. And also will be display like any error for you, because you will submit your XML assignment telling Google all your pages you've got, and then in that tool you can actually seeing how many pages is actually getting indexed and versus how many pages you are submitting. You will know your index rate. And also if Googlebot go into your website when it queried, is there any false 500 server error and all those, because any that kind of like server error, it will be have negative impact for your ranking and your traffic. Because like imagine that when Googlebot come into your site and then your site is performed for 500 internal server error, which means Google will be knowing, oh, your website is not working. But actually it might not be not working. It may be just your server have issue, and then maybe the bandwidth, maybe too many people are getting in, and then maybe like the bot is crawling your website to more heavily, and then your server just can't handle. At that time have 500. But all those Googlebot can be captured, or maybe your user didn't capture that. So you need to have a look at all those. If that error rate is getting higher and maybe a lot of that, then you have to fix it. So maybe you have to find out why it's causing it and then fix the issue and all those kind of things. And plus, if your website is mobile friendly or not, and all those kind of error, and then Google will be showing you for that. And another very hot topic, which is the Core Web Vital at the moment, is talking about site speed. So how your site is actually performed the loading. All those kind of information you can find in Google Search Console. So which means like this is the, if you ask me what's the only one tool you really must have, and this would be the one.
Okay.
But plus that, I will use all the other tools as well. Like for example, if you have schema markup for your website, you need to use rich result test. Will be letting you know how Google actually display your website in the SERP. If you have structured schema markup, then will be telling you if your schema, like before you implement it, Google will be telling you your schema markup looks okay or not okay. There's any error or warning. And also the other one would be like Lighthouse Chrome plugin. Then you will be you can use that to test your site performance. If you do not want to get into Lighthouse, you can use Page Insight Speed, which is the other Google tool you will be using. And all those Google, and also the other one would be mobile friendly test. So all those, if you don't know the URL, doesn't really matter. You just go to Google and then repeat the search of what I'm saying, the name, and then the first result will be coming out will be all those two. And then if not the Google tool, I will also use like SEMrush for my keyword research and all those, and your competitor analysis. And if you want to check your backlink profile, you can use Href. And if you want to do your content strategy, and you can use like Answer the Public and all those. And there's a plenty of SEO tool in the market, but this is the majority tool I will be using daily basis. And also the other one you can't miss it is you need to check your traffic. So this is not based on like all the other two I previously mentioned, is about how you're monitoring and how to find out your SEO performance. But this one is more like your reporting. So if you do anything good or bad, what's happening is not just the ranking, but also the traffic. So what tool will be measure your ranking? There's a plenty of tools there. You can just Google ranking tracking, and then that will be tools there. But the one I'm using is Ranger, which I find that is pretty, the cost is pretty good.
Yep.
And the layout is great, and the information they provide is pretty good. So you can try if you want to use that. And the other one, you really need to check your traffic. So you can't just use Google Search Console to check your SEO click, because click is not equal traffic. Because traffic is actually when people start to loading your website, and they have like page view and how the conversion is actually getting, and all those kind of information is really important for you. It's not just the click. So that's why you need to have some data analysis to implement it on your website. It's just the tagging you need to do. So the most common will be Google Analytics, and then but we are not using Google Analytics. Then you can use the other two, like for example Adobe Analysis and all those things. But you have to have one is about your traffic data analysis. Oh, and then another one I'm missing, which is not the day-to-day basis, but when the new project is going, you really need to do is your keyword research. I did mention previously you can use SEMrush, but SEMrush is just the third-party data. You can't see it from the Google data. So the only thing is really can give you all the monthly search volume, which in accurate basis is called Google Keyword Planner. So that will be the tool I mainly use for collect data for my keyword research.
Awesome. Oh, great. Thank you so much, Jine, for the content you just provided. I think that will be really helpful. So before we move to the next question, can I ask you to do a small favor for me? If you feel the content is really helpful, I would like to ask you to click the like button or leave your comment. If you would like to keep updated for my channel, please subscribe to Smart Web Key. Thank you so much. So question number 5. Can you talk about the future of SEO? And I'm interested to borrow some insights from you here.
Yeah. So the future of SEO, I would say, is the user intent analysis. So because I did mention previously to saying that Google getting smarter.
Yep.
And then so what you want to build to Google, you need to build it for your user. So it doesn't mean like you don't need to care about SEO at all. You do need to care about SEO. So you need to have all those like the knowledge and information and technical mindset of thinking of SEO. But after you have those, what you need to focus is actually your user. So your consumer, your user, the user actually use your product and your website. You need to understand their needs and build the product is for their needs. Then because Google have the UI, I repeat this. Because Google have machine learning, introduce machine learning to their algorithm, which will help them to understand the user behavior more. So in the future, I will be thinking like Google will be just have this kind of user analysis more into their algorithm. So what you build for Google is different to your user. It won't happen, like it won't help at all for SEO. So you need to make those consistent for your user as well as to Google.
Right.
So focus on your user and make your user satisfaction score high is the future of SEO.